I want to speak as much of my truth as I legally am permitted to do. And so I'm going to share what I can. Back in December 2019, after Shane and Jeffree's series ended, James Charles came to my LA home, and we compared DMs, texts, and stories about what had happened behind the scenes. We apologized to each other, forgave each other, and agreed to wait patiently until it was safe for me to share my story. However, prior to the scandal last May, I'd started growing frustrated with what I perceived as a progressing sense of entitlement, and I felt that he was making some detrimental choices that could jeopardize his career and safety. None of my concerns became overwhelming until after I met Shane Dawson. When I made my video, I expressed my opinions about James Charles's behavior. I expressed how much a specific decision he made that I perceived as betrayal hurt me. I was very worried and heartbroken, but I did not lie in that video. While I was definitely upset that he had accepted a sponsorship from the biggest rival to my brand, Halo Beauty, I did not make my video because of vitamins. I made it as a result of all of the poisonous lies that were fed to me by Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star. Yes, I'm a grown woman. I'm smart. I can usually spot deceit and manipulation a mile away, but my guard was down from being heartbroken, and I allowed myself to be worked by Shane, Jeffree, and others. After my video went up, I was never served a lawsuit or any cease and desist letters. I only privated my video at the request of YouTube because YouTube said it was a bad look for their platform. The information they were giving me was terrifying. I thought your career and freedom were in jeopardy. I was trying to get you to put your phone down and seek help because I was told there were a lot of victims that were going to come forward to destroy you. I was scared. I thought if I called you out, you would put your phone down and stop the detrimental behavior I was being made to believe was true. Sometimes weeks or months would go by without hearing anything from him, but I always heard from him when he was involved in drama or when he had a new launch about to happen. Though I recognized this pattern, any suspicion that I had of being used was clouded by the hope that he actually cared for me and that I was a positive influence in his life. As a result, I usually would take his snarky statements about others with a grain of salt. One thing that he did that did concern me a lot was how he would frequently comment about how much dirt he held on other brand owners and members of our YouTube community. I believe that he actually held blackmail material on many people and was capable of destroying the entire community. This worried me about him, and I stayed and I tried my best to be a positive influence. Back in 2019, Jeffree started talking a lot more crap about James Charles than usual. It seemed that doing so had become his biggest obsession. It started with him telling me right before filming our collab together for James Charles's channel that James Charles actually didn't want me there, that he had wanted Nikki tutorials instead, but said he had had my back. Things further escalated at my birthday. Every time James Charles's back was turned, Jeffree would tell me that James Charles was out of control. He even texted and called me the following morning to apologize for James Charles's behavior at my birthday dinner and how embarrassed he was for me. I initially dismissed it as jealousy because James Charles's career was on a rocket ship at the time, but as the weeks went by, every time I saw or spoke with Jeffree, it seemed to me that James was all he wanted to talk about. Over the next few weeks, Jeffree began talking to me about how Shane Dawson was a big fan of mine and wanted to meet me, and how I should be involved in their docuseries. Eventually, Shane reached out to me by text and started DMing me on Instagram. Shane said I was the queen of makeup reviews on YouTube, that I was his favorite beauty channel, and he wanted me to teach him all about makeup. I didn't know much about Shane Dawson. I knew that he was viewed as the king of YouTube, and he had done amazing series with Bunny, and he also shared that Jeffree had wanted me to have a small role in their docuseries. But the entire series was quickly changing because there was something horrible happening in our community with James Charles. He said that James Charles was a monster with many victims. Yes, I knew that Shane was friends with Jeffree and that they were working together, but I thought to myself, why would Shane sit in my home and spend so many hours telling me these horrific allegations if they were not true? Shane said that James Charles was a monster and that James Charles was hurting minors. Shane said he was planning to interview victims for the docuseries. He told me that something needed to be done to stop him from hurting more people. Over the course of the next few weeks, he and Jeffree fed me so much information that I felt sick. Almost every day, there was more information and new allegations. Eventually, I started believing what they were saying because they said they had evidence. By the time the drama around James Charles's promotion of Sugar Bear hair reached its peak, I was beyond gaslit. Shane Dawson didn't just know about my Bye Sister video. He offered to help edit it. He even offered to design the thumbnail and help title it. I declined his offer, but his gesture supported and reinforced for me that he was telling the truth. Why else would he jeopardize his career? So surely Jeffree was telling the truth too. Keep in mind that up until this point, I didn't even know I was making a video. So how is it that so many editorial outlets knew that something was coming before I had even made a decision to film? I struggled with the decision to film my video for days. The night before I did film, Jeffree sent me what he claimed was an audio file from an alleged victim and told me to listen to the pain in their voice. The audio was clearly a small portion of a larger conversation. It wasn't enough for me to contact the authorities. It was enough to scare me. The night before posting my video, Bye Sister, I texted Shane sharing my concerns for James Charles, that he was out of the country on the high floor of a hotel and I was afraid for him hurting himself. Shane texted me back and said that I should not be nervous about the 50th floor, that James Charles was a narcissist and that he would never do that. The day the video went up, Shane requested to come over to my home and film and document what was happening. I declined. After a few days of Jeffree fanning the flames on Twitter, no victims appeared as they had stated would happen, and no evidence came forward as they stated would happen. Shane never reached out to check on me, and he never shared the trailer with me. The last time we spoke on the phone was before Jeffree's apology video, and I asked him to not include the drama in the series. He only texted me after the trailer was live with an audio message telling me to not worry about it. The drama was only going to be one episode. For the next few months, I was tormented with subtweets and innuendo that there was a huge drama around the corner. I felt that I was a liability to them and that I knew too much, so I put all of my text messages and other files on a hard drive and told a few people that I was afraid for my life and had given everything to my lawyers. I was hoping that information would leak, as I thought it might keep me safe. On the advice of my attorneys, I cannot share with all of you right now the evidence that we have accumulated of the events that have occurred. However, there will soon come a day where we will be able to present this evidence, and you will be able to see why it is we believe that Jeffree and Shane are responsible for so much of the damage that has been caused. I can tell you this. It's now my opinion that Jeffree and Shane were both bitterly jealous of James Charles's success. Jeffree resented that so much of his business was centered around his biggest rival, and Shane did not like that James Charles wanted to make a documentary. Neither of them were happy with standing in his shadow on YouTube anymore. I believe James Charles was gaining more followers and receiving more views and more press faster than anyone in the history on the platform. And it's also my opinion that Jeffree and Shane needed James marginalized and out of the way for their November launch of the Conspiracy Palette along with Shane's merch. I do not think it's a coincidence that Morphe is about to launch their own brand of hair, skin, nail gummy vitamins. I do not think it was just Shane and Jeffree that stood to benefit from my being silenced. In early May, when Jeffree went on a podcast and denied responsibility for his involvement and placed blame on me, it was both cowardly and defamatory. Last week, when Shane issued his statements about his involvement in all of this, I also perceived them as cowardly and defamatory